The United States collapsed in the 2020s, and 50 new countries were added to the world. The states of Virginia and West Virginia are extremely different from each other, even though they both share the same blood. Before we get into today's war, we need to know and grasp a bit of background and knowledge between the two. Virginia, as we know, is one of the 13 colonies and is named the birthplace of the nation. Virginia had been united until the American Civil War, where Virginia joined the Confederacy. People in Western Virginia opposed this, and they wanted to stay loyal to the Union, so they succeeded and created the state of West Virginia. Of course, this wasn't really recognized 3 years later, but until 1863, West Virginia was nationally recognized and was added to the Union. Now, after the Civil War, both were very conservative with the farming industry in America. Fast forward to the 1950s, when the two states split into separate political parties. West Virginia voted strongly for the Democrats, while Virginia voted strongly for the Republicans. This would be the case until 2008, when the two states switched sides. West Virginia would vote for the Republicans, and Virginia would vote strongly for the Democrats. The two were too different to be true, and many could not see a united Virginia. But when the United States collapsed, the Virginians were hopeful, and they were determined to get West Virginia to cooperate. They managed to make agreements with Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, who despised West Virginia and wanted it to be wiped off the map, and agreed to fund a Virginian invasion. Plus, this would especially benefit Ohio and Pennsylvania, as they desired a border with Virginia to trade off the Ohio River. On the 2nd of July, the day after North Carolina's invasion of South Carolina began, Virginia invaded. They managed to make quick gains in one day and met the West Virginians in battle at Beckley. The Virginians won the battle and continued their advance towards the Appalachian Mountains. Nearby Maryland, a rival of Virginia, began to worry, and they sent volunteer troops to help the West Virginians. They had managed to take the West Virginia panhandle, and were making great progress, but they were halted by the Appalachian Mountains, as the mountain range made it impossible for a Virginian advance. There, West Virginian guerrillas began sniping at the Virginian army, overwhelming Virginia. The UN, seeing the conflict as nothing but a bloody mess, demanded a ceasefire. Virginia would annex all the land they occupied, mainly southern West Virginia. In return, Virginia would have to recognize West Virginia's sovereignty as an independent state. Both sides were embarrassed by the war. In West Virginia, they didn't like they lost so much land to their arch rival, and in Virginia, they couldn't accept the failure to unite the borders with Ohio and Pennsylvania, and this itself would lead to a long month of protests in both states.